I'm the one holding the crash cart, not the paperwork, and there's a particular kind of quiet that settles over ICU 3 when the numbers finally hold steady. My name's Odalys Fontaine, charge nurse, night shift, county hospital, and I'd been on my feet since 7 the evening before, when the man from 3 years ago walked back into a room I'd already mentally filed under closed. Dorothy Calloway was the patient, 81, hip fracture healed crooked from an old fall, admitted this time for pneumonia that had turned mean overnight. I knew her chart before I knew her face. That's how it goes when you've worked a floor long enough. What I didn't know, what nobody warned me about, was that her attending on the overnight consult would be Dr. Elias Brandt, and that Elias Brandt and I had a history neither of us had ever bothered finishing. "Odalys," he said, and stopped in the doorway the way people stop when they're deciding whether to keep walking. "Didn't know you transferred to nights." 2 years now, I said, keeping my eyes on the monitor because it was easier than his face. "You're a long way from outpatient rehab." "Consult service picked me up for pulmonary rotations. Wasn't exactly planning on running into you over a chart." I want to be honest about what I felt, because I think anyone who's ever worked 12-hour shifts next to someone they used to love, or almost loved, or never got the chance to find out, anyone like that will understand the specific ache of a familiar voice in an unfamiliar hour. It isn't romantic, not right away. It's closer to grief. You mourn the version of the conversation you never had. We'd met at a rehab facility 3 years back, both of us assigned to the same long-term patient, a stubborn old veteran named Walter, who insisted on calling us the pit crew. Elias made me laugh in break rooms that smelled like burnt coffee. I made him rethink a treatment plan more than once, and he actually listened, which is rarer than people admit. Then Walter was discharged, and Elias took a job across town, and somewhere between goodbye and never mind let's get dinner sometime, we just stopped. Now here we were, 3 years wiser and considerably more tired, standing over Dorothy's bed at 4 in the morning while her oxygen numbers climbed back to where they needed to be. "She's a fighter," Elias said quietly, watching the monitor with me. "She apologized to the paramedics for the trouble," I said. 81 years old, can't breathe right, and she's worried about being a bother." "Sounds like somebody I used to work with," he said, and I caught the look he gave me, and I felt my face go warm in a way that had nothing to do with the overheated unit. "I'm not that bad. You once refused a break for 6 hours because you didn't want to hand off a patient mid-conversation. That patient was scared." "I know," he said. "That's why I remembered it." I don't know if you've ever had someone recall the smallest, most unglamorous version of you, not the version you present at parties, but the tired, stubborn, over-invested version, and say it back to you like it was the thing worth keeping. I hadn't expected that at 4 in the morning. I hadn't expected to feel it in my chest like a held breath finally let go. We ended up in the family lounge around 5, the kind of ugly vinyl chairs that have absorbed decades of bad news and good news in equal measure. He got 2 coffees from the machine down the hall, handed me one, and sat with enough space between us that I understood he was being careful, the same way I was being careful, both of us circling something we'd already lost once. "I thought about calling you," he admitted. "More than once. I told myself it was unprofessional, reaching out to someone from a shared case. The case ended, Elias. Walter got discharged. We weren't obligated to anything after that." "I know. I still didn't call." "Neither did I said, and there it was, out in the open, 3 years of nothing explained in 4 words. Dorothy's numbers held through the rest of the night. By 7, when the day shift walked in, yawning and oblivious, Elias and I had talked more in 3 hours than we had in the last 3 years combined, about the jobs we'd taken, the ones we'd turned down, the reasons neither of us had settled into anything that looked like a plan. It wasn't a confession of feelings, not exactly. It was 2 people carefully checking whether the door was still unlocked. "I'm on this consult rotation for another month," he said as I clocked out, sunlight already slanting hard through the lobby windows. "I don't suppose County has decent coffee anywhere within walking distance." "There's a diner 2 blocks over, Terrible coffee, great pie. Sounds like my kind of place. I said yes before I'd fully decided to, which tells you something about how much of that decision had already been made 3 years ago, quietly, without either of us noticing. I keep thinking about Dorothy too, if I'm honest, how she kept apologizing for needing help, how some part of me recognized that same instinct in myself, the reflex to swallow what you need and call it professionalism. I wonder sometimes how many of us do that with more than our jobs. How many almost conversations get filed away as closed cases simply because neither person wanted to be the one who asked first. Elias and I got that diner pie eventually, and terrible coffee, and a slower, steadier version of whatever we'd started years before in a rehab break room. I won't pretend it was simple after that. Schedules collided, rotations ended. There were weeks we barely saw each other outside of hospital hallways. But we stopped letting silence do the deciding for us. And that, it turns out, made all the difference. I still think about that 4 a.m. quiet sometimes, the particular stillness of a patient stabilizing, a monitor settling into its rhythm, 2 people finally admitting what they should have said years before. Makes me wonder how many people are out there right now, sitting 2 feet apart in some ugly vinyl chair, both wanting to say something, both waiting for the other one to go first.